What's happening, Bills Mafia? Ryan Thomas here live for a special Thanksgiving Eve episode of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Usually, I do like to go live, around that 8 o'clock hour, but I got some stuff I got to do tonight. 8 o'clock, got some stuff I got to do. There's a show, it's called Stranger Things. Been waiting about 4 years for season 5 to kick off. So I want to get on here a little bit earlier. Give a really good show, a lot to discuss, a Buffalo Bills preview and prediction, of course, as I like to provide you that preview and prediction for the upcoming Buffalo Bills matchup. Of course, this time around, the Buffalo Bills will be taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. Chime in, fire away some comments in the comments section below. Cannot wait to get into it right here on the Buffalo Fanbase Podcast Network. This is the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. All right, it is the biggest going out night of the year, Thanksgiving Eve. But once you hit that point where you're just sick and tired of going out, there is a time and place for everything. There's a time and place to know where you're at. Like I'm not one to go out as much on Thanksgiving Eve as I used to be. I used to really love going out with friends and family on Thanksgiving Eve, but it just runs out of its luster as you get older. I've reached that point. This is going to be a chill night for me. Nice night to just kick back and relax. I'll let you guys kind of chime in here as I see a few hundred here trickling in from the Buffalo fan base. Please feel free to fire away your comments in the comments section below. It would mean a lot to me to have as much social interaction on this podcast as humanly possible. So if you guys could fire away a comment, give me your take on all things, Bills, right? So I'm on Facebook right now, my personal Facebook. So if you guys see me on there, please feel free to dive in and give me your take. I'm going to definitely dive into the Bills versus Steelers preview and prediction. We're already in week 13. It is absolutely crazy how fast this season has simply flown by. I had to check my eyes to make sure that I was looking at the right week. Week 13, the Buffalo Bills are taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And with the way this season has kind of ebbed and flowed, honestly, this is a very tough matchup for the Buffalo Bills with the way things have gone, the offensive line, and their lack of protection of Josh Allen last week against Houston. We knew that Houston's pass rush was going to be pivotal for the Buffalo Bills to stop in that game, but yet it was not to be. It was not to be, right? The Bills could not stymie that pass rush of the Houston Texans. Josh Allen was just flat out assaulted physically in this game. 8 sacks, and guys like Will Anderson, a few others were really able to make the Bills' offensive line just worn down. We suffered some injuries in this one. Key injury heading into this game against Pittsburgh to monitor is Spencer Brown. It appears as if he is going to be inactive for this one against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So not a good sign when on the way here across the gridiron, you have J.J. Watt's little brother, T.J. Watt, who just passed J.J. for the most career sacks that either brother has ever had. So it says a lot that T.J. Watt, J.J. Watt, two really great players. J.J. Watt, a great player in his own right, probably a Hall of Famer. could be kind of on the outside looking in on that, but at the very least, um, this is a guy that uh, is now looking up at his little brother, who now has more sacks than he does. So this is huge for me as far as pass rushers in this league goes. What will this kind of allude to? In this matchup, could allude to a lot. Could allude to a lot of trouble for the Buffalo Bills, and I hate to say that, but that's a big part of the preview and prediction. Previewing this game offensively for the Buffalo Bills as well, things have just not gone, safe to say, the way that I anticipated them to, and things have just not gone the way that you have anticipated as well. And McDermott and Bean and Allen and Pagula and a lot of blame, the Buffalo blame game is one that I think is a little bit perplexing to me. It's perplexing. Now, I'll tell you why, of course, but for me, when I look at like who the blame game kind of falls within this season, I think it comes down to decisions that were made previous seasons ago. So the season in which we're losing Stephon Diggs, we decide to move on from him. You're entering the 2024 NFL draft, knowing that you need to draft a wide receiver, knowing that you're not only losing Stephon Diggs, but at the time you're also losing Gabe Davis to the Jacksonville Jaguars at the time. So you have to replace two key pieces of what were two key pieces in your wide receiver core in 2023. And as of now, the decision to draft Keon Coleman rather than Ladd McConkey, or the decision to trade down and pass on trading up, in my opinion, for a Brian Thomas Jr., although BT Jr. has not had a great second season, he definitely had a great wide receiver one-esque first season, rookie season. So that has dramatically changed the overall progression of this offense, and it's stymied itself so much so that the reigning MVP, one of the best players in the league, in my opinion, the best quarterback that the league has to offer, Josh Allen, is not able to fulfill his overall potential of where he can go. We know where Josh Allen can go statistically. We know statistically, even though this season the Bills are 7-4, looking up at the New England Patriots, we know what Josh Allen can do and what he does bring to the table statistically, despite the lack of weaponry perceived that he does or does not have. That's up for debate with a lot of us within the Bills Mafia. But rest assured, the blame game is pointed at either McDermott, Joe Brady, Brandon Beane, Terry Pagula. I've heard people throw his name around there as far as this Buffalo blame game goes. And for me, it's really perplexing because I think there's really only one person to point the finger at, and that's Brandon Beane. Sean McDermott coaches the players. Sean McDermott puts the players schematically out there at his decision making, and whether Teron Johnson's the nickel or Trey White's the CB2 the first few weeks of the season, those are the decisions that Sean McDermott makes. But Brandon Beane's job is to put the right players with Sean McDermott's scheme or Joe Brady's scheme, Bobby Babbitt's scheme. Those are the decisions that Brandon Beane has to make, and he has to make them efficiently in order for this Buffalo Bills team to continue to be a well-oiled machine. And thus far, I think these last 2 years, maybe even 3 years specifically, these drafts have just not netted the return in which you would think. Now, Buffalo Bills draft history overall, okay, there's a big gap between Bill Polian and what he did for this team and Brandon Beane and what he has done for this team. So I want to take a little bit of a look back here, and I'm going to hope that this doesn't blast audio because sometimes it does, and I apologize if it does. We're going to choose not to share audio with this tab, but this is the previous draft history of the Buffalo Bills, and we can discuss this here in great length, that I really want to hammer down and look at as why the Bills are in the position that they're in. The return on investment going back to I'll go back to 2018. So the McBean era, Josh Allen, obviously, that's a home run. That goes without saying. He's the league MVP, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, right? Tremaine Edmonds, they traded up to get him. They moved up to get him as well. 19-year-old linebacker, only played here for 3-4 seasons. Okay. Just placed on injured reserve, by the way. So that sucks for his season this year. But played 5 seasons in Buffalo. They did do that first-year player option with him. And he's played the last 3 in Chicago after signing a long-term deal. So that, like the verbiage of that didn't work out, it didn't work out. He didn't stay here long-term. They weren't able to keep him long-term. That didn't quite work out. So going down, Harrison Phillips, he leaves after a few years. Teron Johnson, he's still on the team. Saron Neal, Wyatt Teller, they let go of him way too early. Ray McLeod. This whole draft class, outside of Josh Allen, is Josh Allen and Teron Johnson. And with all due respect to Teron Johnson, he's been a solid player for us. This season, he's not been the same guy. I don't know why that is. It's extremely frustrating as to why that is. But at the very least, I look at this team and I say to myself, this is just not good drafting these last few years, just based on where we're at recently. Ed Oliver didn't really come into his own until these last couple years. Cody Ford, that was a huge miss. Huge miss. The Bills traded up to acquire him. That was a massive, massive miss by this franchise. Devin Singletary, Dawson Knox, still a part of this team. Devin Singletary, a few good years, but then off the team, after his rookie contract. AJ Epinesa, I looked at this and I thought, okay, AJ Epinesa might be one of the only decent returns that the Bills have had as a draft pick in the McBean era. And I'll tell you why. Number one, he was a second-round pick. Number two, he's still on the team. Number three, when you look at his numbers each year, he's recorded, numbers each year, some sort of numbers. 6 sacks 3 years in a row, 6 sacks or more 3 years in a row. He's at 2.5 right now. He'll probably be at around 6 to end the year. So he's a 6 sack a year guy that was drafted in the second round. That's pretty good, considering that he got off to a really slow start with Buffalo his first 2 years, as we can see, his age 22, 23 seasons. Okay? So not necessarily like a starter each year, those first 2 years, but these last 2, he's been pretty fair, to say the least. So as this kind of jumps around here, it always goes down. I don't know why, but AJ Epinesa, solid pick. Zach Moss, they let him go after his rookie year. Gabriel Davis, they let him go to Jacksonville. He gets hurt. He's back now. He's only been back for a couple weeks. I think Gabe Davis put forth some very productive seasons for the Bills here those first few years, but I've always held the opinion that they let him go for a reason, right? And now he's back. They brought him back on the cheap to fill a role that Keon Coleman cannot fulfill as of right now. So Tyler Bass, he's been on IR the whole season thus far, has been overall reliable as a kicker, but missed a big kick against Kansas City a few years back that we're all still remembering, right? So there's a lot of left to be desired. The biggest one for me is 2022 with Kaiir Elam. This pick was just a flat-out bust. This pick was, without a shadow of a doubt, a bust. The term bust gets thrown around a lot more loosely now than what it used to, But Kaiir Elam, 2022 first round draft choice by the Bills, they expected this kid to be lockdown, shutdown guy for the better part of the next 5 to 8 years, right? And he's the furthest thing from it. He was traded to Dallas this past offseason for a few late round picks. Dallas Cowboys waived Kaiir Elam. He is now a free agent, to my knowledge. I don't know if anybody picked him up, but that's really frustrating for me to look at that team at that time, that team being the Bills, of course, at that time, and say, man, this guy was supposed to be the next big thing. Correction, Kaiir Elam was claimed by the Tennessee Titans of the, of course, AFC South. That was earlier today. So I missed that. I've been busy, but I missed that. So he was waived November 22nd. He was claimed by the Tennessee Titans November 25th, 26th. James Cook, second-round draft choice in 2022. He is one of the best running backs in the league. Khalil Shakir, one of the better slot receivers for Josh Allen in the league. I skipped over him, but Terrell Bernard. I love Terrell Bernard when healthy as a player in this league, but Terrell Bernard is far too injury prone, way too injury prone for my liking. As I try to get this, I want to get this full screen here so you can just kind of see this here and listen to the sounds of my voice. So there we go. Khalil Shakir, Christian Benford, sixth-round pick. He might be the best pick that the McBean era has made outside of Josh Allen and James Cook, right? Gregory Rousseau has led the Bills in sacks since he was drafted, but we want more. We want a lot more than what he has offered, right? We want to see him get to that next level of being one of the elite pass rushers in the league. I don't know if he's quite there yet, right? And then obviously Dalton Kincaid in the first round. As of right now, we don't doubt Dalton Kincaid's versatility when healthy. We don't doubt Dalton Kincaid's athleticism when healthy. What we do doubt is whether or not he can stay healthy long term, because he hasn't shown that he can stay healthy long term. So this is really, really important for our team's future to look at these picks. I'll go to 2024, Keon Coleman in 24. I talked about that. Cole Bishop, he has been fantastic this season. Ray Davis, no complaints on my end. I think I'd want them to use him a little bit more than they have. When they have used him, he's been good. Cedric Van Pran-Granger, one of the better value pick offensive linemen that they've been able to draft. Somebody that I do see in their starting rotation in the near future if they can't re-sign someone, or if someone leaves via free agency, so to speak. I mean, Landon Jackson, he didn't do much as a third-round rookie this season, and they decide to put him into the lineup, and then he gets hurt. So what is that? A lot of these guys, man, have been hurt badly. Dorian Strong has a serious neck injury that last I read, Sal Capaccio was talking about him potentially not being back this season. So I would say Maxwell Hairston has the goods that Kaiir Elam didn't. I'd say TJ Sanders is a dynamic player that they want to have in their staple, right? Or in their stable, I should say, in the rotation. He missed some time. Got to see more from him. There's just a lot left to be desired, even as recently as this past year's draft class. So my point is that they have made decisions. Brandon Beane has made decisions as the general manager of this team, knowing what was on the other side of the offense and what wasn't on the other side of the offense. They decided to go all in on defense. And this defense has had a lot of injuries. I don't want to sugarcoat that. I do want to give that the respect that it deserves, because this defense has suffered through some horrible injuries. They're undermanned, right? They've lost a lot of manpower, a lot of just overall toughness to their defense because of the injuries that they've suffered. I know that. I know that when I see the other side of it, Miami Dolphins, Buffalo Bills game in Miami, Bills lose that game, obviously. Tua rears back, lets the left hand flick and fly, and throws it to Malik Washington for a big touchdown. Who's on Malik Washington with that touchdown reception? I believe it was Jamarcus Ingram. And I think to myself, okay, if Teron Johnson was 100%, or if Trey White was in his prime, he wouldn't be on Malik Washington, right? He meaning Jamarcus Ingram. There's just a lot of nicks and bumps and bruises that this defense has faced. But on the other side of that, the offense is badly ailing in terms of skill, right? Outside of Allen, outside of Cook, they have tried to go out and trade for a receiver. That was told to us by Brandon Beane. They have tried to go out and sign a wide receiver. That happened when they signed Gabe Davis, when they signed Mecole Hardman. I was pretty excited about Mecole Hardman coming back into the fold. But then, of course, again, Mecole Hardman suffers an injury and is placed on injured reserve, which opens up more space, roster space, cap space, which allows the Bills to then go out and sign another veteran wide receiver, which then goes to say that they decide to cut another veteran wide receiver in Elijah Moore today as the Bills sign wide receiver Brandin Cooks. And I won't lie to you guys, I can't sit here and get overly excited about the fact that they signed Brandin Cooks because it shows the point in the season in which we are at, week 13. The Bills still need to go out into the free agent market, still need to dip their toes in those veteran wide receiver waters because they are so putrid in the wide receiver group. This wide receiver group is just not doing it. And there's that side of the coin. There's the other side of the coin. The offensive coordinator is having a real hard time finding ways in which to use these guys, which is also a reason to point the finger at someone other than Brandon Beane. So for me, the Buffalo Bills blame game, Brandon Beane. Number 2, Joe Brady. That's where my blame game fingers, the 2-pointer fingers, I point to Brandon Beane, I point to Joe Brady. That's where I sit as a Buffalo Bills fan. And a guy that I'd like to think 10 years podcasting, covering this team, watching these games as closely as I do during and even after the fact. I just don't see Joe Brady doing anything different than what I've seen just because they signed 32-year-old Brandin Cooks. I have a very hard time justifying how Brandin Cooks could be any different than Elijah Moore, than Gabe Davis, than some of these guys that they've brought in. And I mean, some of these guys, again, I just showed you the drafts that they've had. I didn't show you the decisions that they made to sign Curtis Samuel to, a 3-year deal at $11-13 per, right? 3 years, $30 million, I believe, maybe with some bonus money on the side, little cash on the side. That has not worked out. Just throwing that out there, right? Did they think that losing Diggs and Davis, that Curtis Samuel and Keon Coleman were the answers to losing those guys? They did. That's who they brought in post Diggs and Davis leaving, right? And that did not work out last year. To the tune of winning a Super Bowl, it worked out getting to the AFC Championship game, which is a testament to the year that James Cook had, testament to the year that Josh Allen had, obviously, as the MVP. But 1 year removed from that, it's a new year. It's teams looking at how you attacked their defense and figuring things out, and a lack of adjustments, I'd say, overall from Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator Joe Brady. So Brandin Cooks has been a guy that I've always liked, but Brandin Cooks is 32 years old. Brandin Cooks has played for a handful of teams, right? And last year, you also have to throw out the fact that they were struggling in Houston against Houston, and they went out and they traded a third-round pick over a rental player in Amari Cooper, which just showed, the desperation that they had to go out and get a guy from outside the organization to bring him in as a veteran piece to help Josh Allen. Here we are again and again and again. They're continuing to try to find the right veteran wideout that can help their Ferrari. And the veteran wideout I'd look at as like a Ford Escape. You see a lot of them on the road, but none of them are new, right? You don't see many new Ford Escapes out on the road, because by the time someone has driven a Ford Escape for like 5, 6, 7 years, they want something different. That's Brandin Cooks. With all due respect, that's Brandin Cooks. To me, that's Brandin Cooks. Brandin Cooks is not the guy that was originally with the Saints. He's not the guy that was with the Rams. He's not quite the guy that was with the Dallas Cowboys. He's a light version of all of those guys mixed together. And I think maybe Brandin Cooks figures, you know what, hell, I'm 32 years old, right? I'm at the end of my career, towards it. Best chance I have to squeeze whatever juice I got left out of this body, statistically as well, is with the reigning MVP Josh Allen. Any veteran wide receiver would want to play with Josh Allen. Any rookie wide receiver would feel a lot of pressure to play with Josh Allen. And I think that could be a part of why Keon Coleman has struggled so much off the field and maybe on the field too, is that pressure of delivering for a guy that is the man in the NFL and the reigning MVP could be a part of the reason why he has struggled. That's not an excuse, but it is, I think, valid. So they decide to go out and sign Brandin Cooks. They decide, you know what, we need to add another veteran body in here to see what he's got. And Brandin Cooks has been solid. I could pull up his numbers right now, no problem. Playing in this league since 2014, 5'10", 190. He will be on the active roster. I would venture to guess that he's going to play. But this season, on a 2-win team, he has been horrible statistically. But the Saints are horrible. And yet, you look at the career that Brandin Cooks has had. I also, do forget that he was on the New England Patriots playing with Tom Brady as well. But 2 years ago, 2023, he had 8 receiving touchdowns. 2021, 1,000-yard season. 2020, 1,000-yard season. 2018, 1,200-yard season. 2017, 1,000-yard season. 2016, an 1,100-yard receiving season. And 2015, an 1,100-yard rushing season. So those were his early years in the league with the New Orleans Saints. 22, 23. Drafted in the same draft class as one Sammy Watkins. That goes back to the Sammy Watkins, the OBJ, the Mike Evans, the Brandin Cooks, and the Kelvin Benjamins. At one point, we'll be able to say that 3 wide receivers from the 2014 wide receiver draft class played for the Buffalo Bills. And that there were a lot of Bills fans that thought over these last few years, they should go out and sign OBJ. Hey, give it a shot. The guy is playing on one knee, but give it a shot. Brandin Cooks isn't like that. He's not that washed, right? But it's pretty close. And I hope to God that I'm wrong. I hope I could eat crow, and I hope all of you can say, this guy doesn't know jack squat. He said that Brandin Cooks was washed, and this is just what Josh Allen needed to help the Bills win the AFC East. I don't think that that's the case. I don't. I hate to be I don't want to sound like a hater here, but I don't think that's the case. But all that being said, for all the reasons that I talked about in the beginning of this podcast about blaming Brandon Beane, the one thing I can say about Brandon Beane is that he is trying. He does notice the problem that we've all noticed. And go back to the trade deadline. I think when this team was unable to make a move at the trade deadline for a valuable wide receiver one, this team hit a wall. This team hit a wall because it was not sustainable to carry forward with the group that we had prior to the trade deadline. It just and even the urgency of the moves, the Davis, the Hardman, the Cooks, they know that this group is not good enough. They know that something needs to be added to the pie, right? And they add Brandin Cooks. And you know what? Like I said, I hope I'm wrong, but this week against the Steelers is a very tough matchup. It is. Aaron Rodgers is going to play whether he's hurt or not, but the Bills defense has to be prepared for what Aaron Rodgers does. He's been in this league for over 20 years, one of the best improvisational quarterbacks, one of the best extend play quarterbacks, even at 40, the ability to find a lane to throw. That's the only thing that makes Aaron Rodgers the same as what he was 10 years ago. He's not as mobile as he was. He's not as pocket awareness is not quite where it was, not quite the same quick twitch, muscle fibers moving in that old body of his that has suffered an Achilles injury 2 years ago. But the one thing he can do is find that throwing lane at the last second, let that ball go, find that open receiver. That's the one thing that Aaron Rodgers is still really good at. I watched Joe Flacco, play against Aaron Rodgers this season. It was unbelievable because neither of these guys could run across the hallway without, pulling a hammy, but they could throw a 40-yard dot or a 40-yard dart or a 40-yard rainbow. And that's what makes this league so exciting. You have guys like Josh Allen, and then you got guys like Aaron Rodgers. It's just two opposite ends of the position right now. And if there was any quarterback in this game that Josh Allen resembles from when he was in his prime, it is Aaron Rodgers, I would say. I think it's a very valid comparison too, along with John Elway and along with Brett Favre and a couple others. So a lot to discuss, right? And a lot to dive into there. These last few drafts have really hurt the Bills. The return on investment has just not been there. And that's starting to show in this season, unfortunately. So Bills versus Steelers score prediction. I'm going to go low scoring here. I'm going to go 24 to 21 Bills. And I always pick the Bills. Every week I'm going to pick the Bills. But I could easily see a scenario where the Steelers pull this one out. And if that happens, that would be very, very bad for the Bills, creating a further uphill battle towards not only the AFC East, but towards making the playoffs. And that's scary. That's a very scary thought for all the expectations that this team had going into the season of Super Bowl. And yet, this is where we're at. It's pretty sad. And Brandon Beane has a lot of blame to shoulder. Everybody has blame to shoulder. It's not just on one person. So there you have it. That was the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. I want to wish you guys a very happy Thanksgiving. Of course, feel free to tune in to next week's show, December 3rd at 8 o'clock. That one will be at 8 o'clock. All right? Thank you to the fan base. Thank you to the Bills Mafia. Of course, last and certainly not least, go Bills. We'll see you next time.